literacy teachers. I'm so glad you could join me today in our guided reading training session, or our training room. If you notice, you're in a Bitmoji area, or our Bitmoji training room. I will walk you through our training room. That way you can access the different components that are provided within our training room later, as you will be provided with the Google slide that will have all the information that's being given to you in this video. If we look over here, I've attached two icons that are linked to the specific app. So you have your Ed, your and Learning, and also your Clever. We'll talk about the Ed and Learning, or Ed Your Friend and Learning, as we go into the material, but you can also access everything through Clever. And those two links are easily accessible on this Google Training Classroom. The video you are currently watching will be located right here on the TV screen, so if you need to come back later to review certain components of the material given, you have the ability to do that. Right over here, we have guided reading, K through 2nd material, and the guided reading 3rd through 5th. I will primarily break down the K through 2nd. The components that are provided for K through 2nd are identical to what's provided for 3rd through 5th. The only difference between the two tools are the leveled readers, which the components are identical in them, they just switch with the level that the students are moving through. At the end of the training, I am requesting feedback, so you can click on the parking lot and it'll take you to a Google form where you can put feedback, items you are still needing information on, things you would like to see as the year progressed. You can always come back and visit and shoot me a Google form. That way I can kind of see, okay, this is what's needed. How can I help with providing this for our RLA teachers? You guys do so much, and there's always so much information, new information, so it's really nice sometimes when it can all be located in one area. With that being said, let's go ahead and look at our guided reading material for K through 2nd. This spreadsheet is a little heavy with information, so it takes a minute. You notice it says it's still working. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. It will open to your grades K through 2 overview. What you'll notice here is that I have K through 2nd grade, and it gives you the reading levels that your students should be at in a particular part of the year. At the very top, you'll notice that there is a Word document attached. So I'm going to go to click on this. This is very important as it pulls up. During one of our PLCs with our K through 2nd grade readers, we pulled up this document when we were grouping our students for our guided reading lessons. And so we pulled up this instructional level expectations for readers, and it's very eye-opening. A little backstory on me, I'm primarily 3rd through 5th. I love teaching 4th grade reading and writing. I just am so enthralled when I'm able to read students writing and just how they can tie together the stuff that they read to their own inner voice. But with that said, some of you are cringing because there's two star tests when you hit 4th grade RLA. But there are things in here that I enjoyed expressing to our K through 2 teachers that K through 2 teachers may not quite know if they stay away from STAR. God bless y'all. I don't blame y'all. But there are some components that need to be observed, especially when you're building those fundamental building blocks for our students in literacy. I really took a liking to the key because it gives K through 2nd grade teachers an insight to, okay, I am setting the course for this student as they progress into those STAR grades, those testing grades where it's going to be very demanding on them, and I do have a part of that, and I am setting them up for success later down the road. So if we look at the key here, this first tier is going to be exceeds expectation. We'll move down to the student meeting expectation in that grade, that part of the interval for the year. They're approaching their goal and does not meet expectations. With approaching and expectations, there are notations below it. Needs short-term intervention and needs intense intervention. So what I like to use this for is teachers, K through 2 teachers and 3rd through 5th teachers, we know this. It helps us set an overview for our students as we're putting them in their tiers for that particular part of the year. If I have a second grader that is leaving second grade at below L, and they're going into third grade below L, down here, a good insight to where their trajectory is going as far as star, but it also is very evident that this student, particularly for all year, will be receiving intensive intervention. Now, my hopes would be that when that student enters second grade at below I, that interventions were given all along. So it gives a very good indication for us as we're looking at these students as they start to mature as readers, how we are tracking them and setting them up best for success. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I could talk for days on that subject. I'm just so passionate about making sure our students know how to read. But let's bring us back over here. So this key is right here. It is provided on each sheet that is given for each grade level. You will have a reminder of this key. If you noticed here, there are 4 quadrants, as I explained before. Beginning of the year consists of August and September. The first interval of the year is November and December. The second interval of the year is February and March. And then the end of the year is going to be May through June. A reality for us is we will be teaching in the month of June this year. The intervals coincide quite perfectly with the reading test schedule that is given when we do benchmarks for our students with their the reading levels. It worked out nicely this year. Now that we all have our material, it should flow, I think, even better this year. We're going to go ahead and click on grade 1. Only because grade kinder, you'll notice that they don't have a reading level for the first part of the year. Those kinder babies are coming in. They're getting acquainted with a whole new world of going to school, and this year working virtually. So that is not a pressure we want to put on them. Many of them can read. Some of them will be, but we'll start to see those blossoming readers, emergent readers, as we go into that first interval. I will click on grade 1, so it'll give you an oversight. It's very overwhelming, I'm sure. Could you imagine having K through second all on one sheet? And that's what I did. But when I looked at it, I became overwhelmed. So I was quite sure that my teachers, or the teachers I work with, when they see it, it was just going to be like, Miss Paulina, this is a hot mess. So they are broken up. First grade, we are first grade teachers. You will notice that you have a few more items available on this page. As stated before, you will have this chart provided that you can print out, post as needed. Guided reading card introductions. I will click on one of those when I loop back around. You have Rigby list provided. It has a comprehensive list of K through 6th grade leveled readers. I didn't break it up, and I'll explain that later when we go back and look in there. You also have it accessible in Spanish. Make sure you hover kind of towards the corner, right? And the way I put those links in, they kind of tend to be down on the second cell. I also provided a link to get to the Ed Your Friend in Learning if you choose not to exit out and go through Clever, which there's 2 ways you can do it, and I'll explain when I get to this part. Guided reading cards. What am I looking at, Ms. M, when I'm looking at these guided reading cards? I'm going to click on the English version. The Spanish version is provided. You'll notice when you hover over the cell, it provides you both links. So when we pull these guided reading coaching cards, they will give you a component to plan and prepare for your small groups. Tips as you're preparing. The different components of the coaching card. Opening, you're introducing the behavior or strategy that you're expecting to see within that guided reading lesson. What your observations should be for that strategy and behavior. What support you can offer that student if they're struggling through that lesson. What can you do to improve the output as you're observing? Then you will have your closing recap. What should you be going over at the end of that lesson with a group of students or a particular student? I will close out of that. As mentioned before, you just hover over the cell, you have access to the English and the Spanish. Side note, all the Spanish have grados, so that's with the O instead of the E. This is broken up in the quadrants listed before. We pulled up first grade. You and I today are going to be a first grade teacher. We have a particular student that has come in it's September. We have done a running record and have concluded that they're on a level C. As I prepare for my small group or my guided reading, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the C card. I haven't looked at what book I'm going to use with them. I'm going to pull up the card first to see a little bit more information that I need when I'm working with the C group. This card will provide me, readers at this level gives me a good insight to what the student should be able to do. And some of this stuff as a teacher and classroom teacher, I'm already observing. So some of it I may be checking off, and some of it I may be saying, I haven't seen that yet. I don't see them doing that. It's very useful for new teachers, support staff, second-year teachers, any teachers, because often we forget what is all enclosed in that level, and we may be putting higher expectations on that students that aren't quite at that level yet, but it gives us a very good baseline and set a goal for what we can expect them and push them to achieve within that guided reading lesson. Provides us tips on what we can do as teachers to support development, also your support staff. I've had the privilege of working at 2 campuses where the support staff has been amazing. The only caveat to it is they do ask, what is it that I should be doing during this lesson? What should I be working on with them? In an effort to provide tools that will empower these additional support staffs for these students or empower them to work more independently, these can be accessible online to them so they can prep themselves for these small group lessons. And it kind of takes the pressure off the teacher to have things ready. It's more of a, I know where the information is, I know what I need to pull for the student, and I can do it to help them get to where they need to go. As stated before, it's key behaviors to observe. So you'll go through here, you'll notice there's different ones. If you're working with the student 3 days a week, 2 days a week, depending on where they're at as far as your tiers, you may not cover all this in one, so it's okay not to try to cover all of it. Your guided reading lessons aren't that long. So if we're working on one particular skill, which would be the reader recognizes known words and uses letter sounds or word parts to solve new words, this is what I'm going to focus on when I'm pulling that group of students. I will provide the strategies and model and what I expect and observe. And then as I'm observing and noticing students perhaps struggling or achieving that, I have guiding statements that I can provide to them as they're working through it. Miss M, I know I have a student on level C. I've looked up what expectations I should have for them, what strategies. Now what do I do? Now we pick a reader. So there's 2 ways we can do this. I've empowered you with the comprehensive list of all the readers. Tell me what we know already. We know that we're in first grade, and we know that we have a student on level C. I was going to break up all these different grade levels and grade specific. Not that I ran out of time, but it crossed my mind that sometimes it's good to have the whole list for the fact that I may be a 3rd grade teacher and I have a student who may be on a level for grade 1 and I do not have a reader that is tailored for that student. And I know some people are saying you should not say that. It's sad, but I have to say it because I have done it myself, and some of us know I may be a 3rd grade teacher and I have to run downstairs and say, excuse me, can I borrow this level reader from you? I have a particular student and that's the level I need to target with them. And that's okay because our goal is to move them up to the level they should be on. So I'm looking for first grade. I think I passed it in my rambling of keeping this all together. So grade 1, I'm looking across. It gives you, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, the genre, the level. So here's C, and it transitions to D, the Lexile level, how many pages are within the book, and then what skills, what comprehension skills they're working on over here. So take and teach instructional sessions. So we can look at key ideas and details, characters, or story structure. One component is if we have a selection of C cards, and we're thinking, well, which one should we use? I would look at what I'm already introducing in the classroom. Am I working with realistic fiction, animal fantasy, informational text? If I'm doing informational, am I targeting into the skills provided? Are we working on central idea? If so, then I may pick Now It's Hot, nonfiction. So I've selected a book. I'm going to close this list out. Now It's Hot. I will go to my Ed Learning. Here we go. So as stated before, there's two ways you can enter your HMH. You can go through your Ed Learning link that I provided, or you can go through Clever. I've done both for the purposes of this video. Initially, when I went on here, I had to reset my password, which was easy. It sent it through my district email. And I reset it so I have two ways to enter this app for this forum for materials. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. Once I enter, it'll bring me to my dashboard. If you watched my previous video on adding curriculum onto your Discover forum, you'll know that it'll bring you right here. We stated that we were first grade teachers. I have been requested to make videos, a video series on the different components that are provided here. That is forthcoming. Since we were focusing on the guided reading section, I figured I would tie in the rugby level component that is provided here so you could pull your information digitally for your students. There are two ways to do this. I will show you the first way if I hadn't selected a book and I came to do it digitally and I didn't have the list that I was looking for. Components, different things you're looking for. It provides your guided reading coaching cards here, benchmark books. You can look for different things. Leveled readers, printables. We want the leveled readers. It's taking us just to the leveled readers. Instructional purpose. This is for small group. Reset. Genre, we already said we're doing informational text, so it's narrowing the search. We know our student is a level C. So now I have my level C readers. So it gives me a list of different books. Now It's Hot. Easier way, since we looked up the list, you can go in your search bar and type in Now. And there you go, it's the first book. I can open it. And now when I pull my C students to my breakout room, we can read along and conduct our guided reading session together. If I'm assigning this and want them to have it in class on their own device as we're working, if we're not pulling the books out, if for whatever reason we're moving to digital forum at home and they have to be able to access it, you can go to your classes and you can pick the students you need to assign it to. You can even set up your own groups. That's another video forthcoming. You just click the students you're going to assign it to and it will be available for them to access in their Ed Learning account. As I close this out, I will return here. So recapping over, you have your explanation of the cards. For each reading level, as your students mature and emerge and transform as readers, you will progress through this chart with your students. You have access to the whole list. You've also seen how to access the actual readers via your Ed and Learning account. Here's a preview of second grade. Very similar, just the only thing that's changing are the reading levels. I'm going to go ahead and close out of here for my 3rd through 5th grade teachers. Your tool is identical with the caveat that the levels are different. A comment that you may be thinking, but what if I need information from 2nd grade? And I know some people are rolling their eyes. It is true, I have seen it. It's sad. However, you know you have access to the K through 2nd material. You have it independently, you know where to go and get it. It should not be an issue of a student not being on a level in 3rd grade or 4th grade and you're having to go down to another grade level to get material and observe material to help meet those students' needs. Especially if we can catch it early in the year, we can provide them with intensive instruction from the beginning. So here is the overview. I clicked on 3rd grade. Everything is identical. The only thing that is changing is the levels. I do hope this information was helpful. Please remember to leave feedback on my Google form. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to the end of the year, hearing that things were made easier, things were clearer, that you were able to provide your students with the intensive sessions that they needed, and that you had a successful year.